Body piercing jewelry toolkit. What you need at home, what would make your life easier if you wear jewelry, how to store the jewelry, and all that fun stuff. Coming up here on Body Piercing Basics, episode number 10. So stick around. For those who don't know who I am, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I'm the owner and operator of the Axiom Body Piercing Studio here located in Des Moines, Iowa, and we share our space with Skin Kitchen Tattoo. Before I get into this, nothing replaces going to see your piercer and have him change the jewelry professionally. Most piercers will not charge to change jewelry regardless of where the jewelry comes from. I personally will sterilize it. It does take a period of time for it to be autoclaved, but I'm willing to do that for my clients. In that first year or so, as the piercing is starting to season and it's more acceptable to closure than it would, say, be 5 years down the road, it may not be a bad idea to come in and have them change it for you. Talk to your piercer, see what their policy is on that, and take it from there. It's a little less stressful, and if something goes wrong during the process, most professional piercers are going to have access to various different tools and items that are going to make getting the jewelry back in if there's a problem, or closing up the jewelry, or reducing the amount of stress on that piercing by changing it. Nothing's worse than having a client that dedicates themselves to healing out that piercing, does a great job, then goes out to the mall, buys a new piece of jewelry, and the next day stops in to tell you that they can't get the jewelry in, or they've caused damage to the piercing and have to start the healing process all over again. So, when in doubt, go see your piercer. I know that there are situations, either because of where you live or access to transportation or whatever, or maybe it's an emergency, where you're not going to be able to go into your piercer every time you want to change out the jewelry. So what I've done is I've compiled kind of a list, and there's also affiliate links where you can buy this stuff on Amazon and kind of start your own little piercing kit that you can have on hand to change jewelry, store jewelry, and do it in a somewhat clean or safe way. Some things you need to pick up. The first thing I really suggest getting, especially if you have threaded or threadless jewelry, any type of post-style jewelry where there's an end that's removable, is Hemostats, also called Kelly forceps. Personally, I like the mosquito style with the flattest tip possible. And the reason for that is that if you have jewelry that's fitted to the piercing and is somewhat snug, having that thinner piece of metal to clamp in there and get a hold of that post is crucial when you're trying to remove a threaded end or put in a piece of jewelry in an area where it's difficult to do so. So now we're going to go into the main two uses for it is removing ends or putting ends on, because especially in places like, let's say for example, the trachea, where you can't really grip a disc or even a ball in that area with your index and thumb, or your nostril for that matter. It's much easier to use these hemostats to guide the jewelry in and hold it in place while you either screw a ball on there or press a ball or unscrew or remove a ball. So they come in really handy, and also it helps you to kind of get a better, if you're using threaded jewelry, to maybe get it on there just a slight bit tighter than you would without it. This also, as far as libre style jewelry, is another thing that comes in very handy. Number 2, taper pins. Taper pins, if you're not familiar with them, were originally designed for stretching, but their usage has expanded greatly over the last 20 years of piercing. And mainly what they are used for anymore is not so much stretching piercing as guiding jewelry into freshly done piercings, or piercings that have healed, especially in situations where we're dealing in tight quarters, like for example your nostril or your trachea, or anywhere on the ear where it's impossible to get your hands back there, to use the taper pin to actually guide the jewelry into place. Of course, with rings or some types of jewelry, you just kind of guide it into either side and it goes in fine. But when you're dealing with a situation where you have a flat back or a threaded ball or something that's on one side and then the side that you're actually going to want to change is on the other side of that, it's impossible to dig your way up in there and try to find that little hole on the inside. Yeah. Think about it. Try thinking how you would put your nostril, if you have a nostril piercing, how you're going to put that jewelry in from the inside outward opposed to the outside inward, where you can't see where it is and you can't really fill that well up in there or get that good of a grip on that jewelry to begin with. So we use taper pins, and taper pins usually, in most cases, are going to be anywhere from 3 to 4 gauges thinner on the tip side than the thick side. So on the thin side versus the thick side. So basically a taper pin, good example would be like a 16 gauge taper. One side, the thick side, is going to be 16 gauge, and the thin side is going to be 20 or 19. The nice thing about that is it will usually fit inside threaded, internally threaded jewelry or unthreaded jewelry or threadless jewelry into that tube that is on the edge of the jewelry. So you can kind of lock it into place and then use that. So like for you putting your nostril in, put the taper pin in this way, get it all the way to the bottom of the nose, and then probably take a pair of Hemostats, clip on the Libre stud, push that taper pin into the center of the Libre stud, and then basically insert it using that pin to guide it into place. Much easier than trying to figure out how to find that hole inside your nose. Same thing with tracheus piercings. So in a lot of places, anywhere where you pierce in one direction and then put the jewelry in the other way, they're used that way. And for insertion, they're often used for that reason. It just makes it easier. Forward helix is another one that's really easy to change, much easier to change jewelry with a taper pin than it would be without it. So if you're dealing with mostly 18 to 16 gauge jewelry, I would suggest finding either a 16 gauge taper or an 18 gauge taper. I do have an affiliate link. It is a manufacturer that I believe I've had jewelry or taper pins from in the past. If you do purchase one, let me know how it worked out for you. The thing that always annoys me is none of the manufacturers will put what the thin side is anymore, which is probably the more helpful part of it. Ring expansion pliers, number 3. If you wear Catty bead jewelry, anything that's larger, that doesn't have threaded or push pin or threadless ends, where you're actually locking a ball into place, you're going to find ring expansion pliers very helpful, especially if you're dealing with larger gauges, usually 12 gauge and above. What they are is they are kind of like a set of pliers in reverse. Instead of, when you squeeze it, instead of clamping down on whatever you're trying to get a hold of, they expand outward. They also have little indentations where the ring can kind of sit into. So what you do is you apply slight pressure, and that will release the tension on the ball and make it easy to remove it or put it back in. They're pretty generic, large variety, and there's affiliate link to one of the for some that are going to be comparable and easy to use at home. Ring closure pliers. Now, this is kind of something that you probably won't have to use, but if you have the expanders, I suggest having the closures. And the reason being is sometimes you get a little overzealous with expanding that ring, and it will go from being a perfect circle to kind of an oval shape. And no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to get that ball to lock in there because there's too much space between the two. So you need to use the closure pliers to shrink that back down. The other advantage of them is adjusting or moving jewelry, especially like seamless or beaded jewelry. It's easier to do that with the ring expansion pliers. It can be kind of a useful tool in a lot of different ways. Most common are, they look like regular pliers, they act just like regular pliers, but they have kind of an indentation or a groove in them that the jewelry sits into. Now, some other things you should probably have around the house when doing this. Water-based lubricant. Personally, I like Surgilube. It's easy to find, fairly inexpensive, and you can buy one tube and it will last your entire lifetime. You can use the main advantage of it is this antibacterial static, meaning it repels bacteria. So it's something you can have around, use on fairly different piercings, and as long as you don't flat out contaminate the entire tube, you should be safe to store it for a long period of time. It is used in a lot of medical treatment for anywhere where, and I'll leave this to your imagination, they might need lubricant to insert something. Just saying. You can buy a tube, have it for a couple of years and probably never go through it. I don't like water or oil-based lubricants or petroleum-based lubricants because they can cause issues, including creating an area where bacteria and other pathogens and contaminants can kind of stick to, because the petroleum takes a while to wash off the skin. It can also block the flow of oxygen, cause issues all over the place, and once that stuff's on there, it's very difficult to get off anything or grip anything. Water-based, a little bit easier to work with. I have had clients that have used water-based lubricants like KY. That could go, I guess they've had little or no issues with that. The biggest thing is to make sure that it is plain, doesn't have any moisturizers, fragrances, any heating elements, or any chemicals in there that may cause a reaction, even in a healed piercing. Gloves. Powder-free. Just basically because powder is messy. It gets on everything. I personally like latex gloves. If you are not allergic to latex, that is perfectly fine. But if you have a sensitivity to latex, then you want to get nitrate or some form of latex-free material. Now, you might be saying, why would I need that to put jewelry in myself? A couple different reasons. First off, it kind of gives a barrier that you know is fairly clean and free of contaminants, which makes, sense. You don't want to, even in a healed piercing, you don't want to really take the risk that that you might contaminate the wound and cause an infection by tearing something. So just to be honest, it's a precaution. The other thing is with latex especially, it makes it much easier to grip shiny metal. So it makes putting balls on and moving jewelry around and all that stuff that's difficult a little bit easier because you can have a better grip. Antibacterial liquid hand soap goes without saying. Something like Dial or Dial Gold or even soft soap. We're not really worried about fragrances and etc. Basically, clean your damn hands before you handle the jewelry and change the jewelry, even in a healed piercing. First aid kit. Something can always go wrong, and every household should have a first aid kit. I've listed one in the affiliate links. That's a fairly simple one. Not a lot of products, but it's fairly cheap. But it has some of those things that you might need if you cause damage to the piercing during the changing the jewelry, or cause some other problem that you can quickly, get that necessary steps towards healing that problem, including some disinfectant and some bandages and etc. that you might need. Now let's get into storing jewelry. I don't know how many times in my career I've seen somebody walk in with a Tupperware container or a tackle box full of like 80 different rings that they bought somewhere. They're not of the greatest quality, but all of those rings are in there knocking around, scratching each other. Some of them are brand new. Some of them have been used on piercings. Some of them have been worn in other piercings. And it just makes me cringe. The best way to store jewelry at home is to first off buy a bunch of the plastic, resealable, airtight, small baggies. You can get like 100 of them for $10. They also have little labels on there that you can attach to it so you know exactly where you got that or what type of jewelry that is, or etc. The main advantages to having a baggie is it isolates the jewelry. So it isolates it from being contaminated by any other jewelry that's in that container. It also isolates it away from it and gives it a barrier to protect it so that it's not scratching and damaging the jewelry as they come in contact with each other. Think about it this way. Let's say you have your tongue pierced and you have a genital piercing. You have like 5, 6 different barbells. You're crazy, you're wacky, you like changing them on a regular basis, and you store them in your Tupperware container. Then you decide to upgrade your jewelry and your genital piercing, and you take that out and you slap it into that tub with all the jewelry that you've been using in your mouth. Think about what's mixing around there and whether or not any of that jewelry needs to go back into your body. The same thing with simply just an ear piercing versus having your tongue jewelry in there. The jewelry is going to contaminate one another. The other problem is as it moves around, it scrapes and it's going to mess up that finish, and it's going to cause crevices and scratches and etc. That can affect even a heel piercing, because when you put that jewelry in, if there's a rough surface, it's going to be scraping and causing damage to that healed tissue. It can agitate a healed piercing and cause suddenly a healed piercing to become infected or some other problem. So, separate individual baggies. Then, if you want to have them all in one place, what I suggest is going out and buying a plastic organizer, kind of a tackle box. And basically, I've listened to one of the affiliate, which has various different, you can put different types of, you can reorganize it any way you want to. And basically, you can put those little baggies in little sections and isolate it and protect the baggies from being damaged. The other thing is every time you take a piece of jewelry out of your body, you should put it in a clean bag. Don't use the same bags over and over and over again for various different reasons, including, do you really want to put something in your mouth or your ear after it's been... Okay, you get what I'm saying. I trust you. You're smart. You know this. Storing of tools. Now, you bought all these tools. You have them in one place, and you're happy to have them, and they are making your life a lot easier. How should you store them between usage? First off, immediately after getting done using them, I suggest cleaning them with warm water and soap. Use a toothbrush to get off any type of, just to be on the safe side. Of course, if you are one of those people that has an ultrasonic cleaner at home for cleaning jewelry, not a bad idea to put them in there and run a cycle to remove anything else. Then let them air dry in an airtight container with like a paper towel on the bottom, and then store them in a dry, clean environment till you need them again. Don't just throw them in a toolbox to get contaminated by everything else that's in the toolbox. So kind of find a separate way of holding those. Something with 3 tiers in it, easy to go, 3 or 4. So that covers basically what I wanted to accomplish today here. As far as getting a toolbox and equipment together to change jewelry at home easily and efficiently, in storing jewelry and tools correctly. If you feel like I was too vague on something, or it's kind of what I've talked about has brought up other questions, please leave a message or leave a comment. I'll be happy to sit down and answer those. If you have additional hints, please add those. We all like to share our information and come up with the best solutions. Next video I'm going to be doing, or one I'm going to be trying to be doing here in the next few weeks on the body piercing basics, is on how to change jewelry at home, kind of setting up, what some things you should consider while doing that, and we'll go through some kind of the process of how we do that here at the studio and some of the precautions we take to avoid cross-contamination or damaging the piercing during the jewelry changes. Till next time, I hope you enjoyed this. Give me a thumbs up. If you like videos like this, please subscribe. We also do videos on tattooing and a question and answer video that comes out every 2 weeks as part of our podcasts that are be coming out. So, good idea to subscribe to know what's going on. Till next time, have a good day, happy piercing, and if you're in the Des Moines area, I hope to see you for your piercing needs in the future.